Hey, what's up everybody? It's Brian here with another tutorial. This time we're going to be back in Davinci and we're going to color grade this shot right here. So recently I was a part of several shoots. This is one of them. I was helping out some friends at a local church and I was a camera operator there. I'm actually not editing on this project. I'm not color grading, but there was a lot of good footage here. This is my personal camera, so I asked them if I could just, play around with some of their footage. They said it was okay. And I figured I would do a tutorial in Davinci, as it's actually been a while since I've shown off how I color grade in Davinci. I think the last tutorial I did was this one right here, which was how I color grade my drone footage. And I figured it's time that I actually show you guys how I color grade my Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera footage in Davinci as well. Now, disclaimer, Davinci is not the only way I color grade. Depending on the project and what I need to deliver to the client, sometimes I'll color grade in Premiere, sometimes I'll color grade through Avid and its plugins, or I'll color grade in Davinci. It honestly just depends on the project, what I need to do, how much time I have, and what I need it to look like. But I will say this, Davinci, of all of the software I've used out there in the industry, and it's not all of the software I've used, but all the ones I've used, is the strongest one by far. So I've isolated this clip here. Basically it starts at Sean's foot. Sean is the guitarist here, and it just rises up to his guitar. And then it goes to his face. Now it's a little shaky because this is pure handheld right here with no stabilizers. I'm already tired by this point in the shoot, but we're gonna go ahead and color grade this footage right here and show you guys how I handle it. It actually looks really good out of camera in the film color space, but this is not what you want to deliver as. It's gonna get compressed when you throw it into, let's say, YouTube, or let's say you burn it to a DVD. It's not gonna look that good. So we want to set it up to where it's Rec. 709 safe, which is the usual broadcast safe color space. And we want to make sure that we have solid values here and it's pleasing to the eye. We don't need to go very creative on this one, but the theme here is Christmas. So when you think of Christmas, you think of, a fire pit, which we actually have here. And then you also have the light back here. But you also think of fire, you think of reds and greens, of course, for Christmas, nice and warm, and then snowfall, like this comparison. And that's what we kind of want to go for. So let's go and get started here. The first thing I want to do on this first node is I want to come over here to the camera raw data. And I want to get off of the camera metadata, and I want to go to clip. Now, you notice I've already made a few changes. The original footage was shot at 200 ISO, and you can see it's a little bit dark, and that's okay. But I'm going to up it to 400 ISO. Use all your tools to your advantage here. So I'm going to up the ISO a little bit to 400. I did shoot on purpose a little underexposed on set because we had a lot of bright lights. I didn't know how they were going to react. I was also lens swapping a lot. So like this lens, for instance, this is a 1.8, whereas I have a 2.8, which has some filters on it actually. So I use some filters on my 2.8, and it's a tighter lens as well. It's a 24-70, where this is a 18-35, and that other lens brings flaring. Whereas this lens, you'll notice there's not really any diffusion at all. There's a little bit of soft diffusion here, but that's just because it's so bright. So keep that in mind. Also understand that the white balance here is a little bit off. One of the cool things with RAW, you can come in here and you can modify your color temperature. We shot a little bit warmer. Again, we wanted it to feel a little warm, and that's why, if you look, the white balance actually pushes a little bit. This is the guitar though, and it's actually that color. That's why it's a little pushed here. But if I come up here, this is pretty white, but it has a green tint to it. It's kind of hard to see it in the scope unless I push in, but you can see the greens are pushing a little bit. So that's just some things we have to pay attention to. But let's go and start. Let's start a new node. Right off the bat, I want to come in here to my primaries, and I want to just add a little bit of contrast. I also want to pivot this up, so I'm working in the midtones here of my graphs and my parades, so that I'm not pushing and crunching blacks where I don't want to crunch blacks. Another thing I want to do is actually want to come over here and I want to show pick our RGB value. It's good to always have as much knowledge at your disposal. And I'm going to work off of this shot right here, or this frame right here. It's the middle of the whole shot. I may come over here and see how Sean looks. You see his skin tones have kind of been lost as I pivoted up. We'll bring that back. So, but let's start right here. Get a nice little guitar feel. The next thing I actually want to do, I want to come back here and create a node in between the two. Just to be on the safe side, let's rename this. Remember, I've actually remapped my hotkeys to rename nodes to tab, so I just hit tab and rename. You should do the same. I'm going to call this denoise, and I actually want to come over here to my motion effects. And I actually want to create this node here as a pre-adjust node. We'll actually name it as a pre-adjust. Come back to the frame we're working on. And then now I want to do is I want to separate my layers. So the first thing I want is I want to separate this color right here because I want to preserve the guitar color as best as possible. So I'm creating a new node, Alt S, and then I'm going to use Alt L for layer. I'm going to call this top one BG and call this one guitar. I actually may come up here and hit Alt L again. So we have one in. Oops, sorry, I messed that up. I'm going to hit Alt L again. So this is in the foreground, background, and then I want to have one here for skin. This will make more sense here in a few. But let's go ahead and hide the skin by holding down Control and D. Come to the guitar, and let's go to our qualifier here. And I just want to pull out the guitar. It's going to pull some of the skin, probably, and that's okay. Get a little bit of colors here. It's okay to blur this out as well. And let's just make some tweaks. Don't want too much of the folks in the background. Okay. It's okay to get a little bit of skin because we're going to push the skin here as well. And if I need to, I'll pull the skin in front. Okay, this is good for now. We'll hold the guitar there and then we'll see what it looks like. Yeah, we're getting a little bit of skin there. We may have to actually key in the guitar. Let's play on the safe side and let's do that. So I'm gonna come over here. I'm gonna create a mask, just a nice circular mask. Let's grow this mask way up, right over. I'm gonna zoom out. Let's see here. Should I I'll rotate a little bit. Make sure we're getting the whole thing. Let's soften it up. And remember, with anything we do in visual effects, color grading, post-production, less is better. So we're not going to be making dramatic changes, but we want the changes to mean something. So we're starting in the middle here, and that's okay. So I'm going to track forward, then we're going to come back and track backwards. Okay, it looks pretty good. Let's come back to our beginning of that track, and let's track backwards now. All right. Okay, this is working for what I want. So let's go ahead and turn off our solo. And let's go to the BG, and let's go ahead and work on the curves tool here. And I just want to add a little bit of contrast. Okay. I also want to start white balancing here. Paying attention to the whites. So just follow. All right. I definitely want to pull my greens out in my midtones, but not by a lot. So let's come to the gamma. And I am literally just going to pull back that much. Okay. We'll look at the scopes here, see how much that we're doing. Okay. Not a lot. So I just want to pull back that much, essentially, right here. I want to notch those greens down because I just don't want them to get out of control as the shots move forward. But as you can see right now, we actually have a pretty solid grade already going. Let's delete the skin node here for a little bit. If I hit Alt-D, so this is the beginning, the end. Look at the next part of the shot. Beginning, ends. Beginning, ends. And we're getting a nice contrast. We are starting to push Rec 709, but we're going to bring that back. But yeah, we're looking good. This is not, it's not rocket science. It is artistic, and you obviously can push. We're not going for a particular look. Maybe in the future, if the client comes up, hey, I really want to get this particular look, we could study that look and then try and replicate it in Davinci. But this is just a beginning tutorial in Davinci, so I don't want to really, dive off of that cliff. Let's go ahead and recreate that layer node, and I want to isolate the skin here. So let's turn on our solo again. Let's go to our qualifier, and I just want to pull the skin out. And you'll notice it pulls a little bit more than what we want. So let's just go ahead and pull back on the saturation. Reduce the luminance. A little bit of her hair. Now, when we use the vignette, it's going to probably pull more of Sean's skin here. Oh. And the focus I really want, I want it to be on his face. Blur this way up. Cool. All right, so I pulled out a little bit of his skin. And you'll notice it gets a little bit of the edges of the guitar. And it grabs her skin as well. And that's okay. So what we're going to do, and you'll notice if I hit Control D, their skin stays the same. So what I can do is just add more saturation to their skin. I also want to just use my primaries as well. Reduce a little bit of the detail. We're moving a lot, so it's okay. So we're just going to reduce a little bit of the detail. And let's add some color into the skin. See what this looks like. I'm going to turn off the audio. You'll notice we reduced some detail in the skin. I pulled some of the reds out here just by using the saturation before, after. And so the skin tones look a little bit more natural. If I come down here and I look at my vector scope, I'll see the skins are starting to look a lot more natural here. They're still a little under where I want them to be. So let's go ahead and push that right now using this node. What I can do is I can add just a little bit of red. Not by much. Just do like 0.1 here. And then I could probably add a little bit more red in the gain as well. I actually want to come over here to this qualifier and I want to blur this even more. Might have to come back and retweak this qualifier, but I'm pretty happy where it's at right now, and I kind of want to just keep moving along and get this to a finished shot. Let's go ahead and do that right now. Let's come back to our hero frame. I want to create a node after my layer node. We're going to do this as a post adjust, just in case we need it. And like I said, I wanted to vignette Sean a little bit. It's going to come to the end right here. I want to create a mask, a vignette essentially that comes like, it's not a perfect oval vignette. I kind of want to draw our attention into this linear line that I created when I was shooting. So if you follow this shot, I start with the shoe down here, right? Come up to about the middle point, the guitar's in the middle, and then we come to the very end and Sean's head's way over here. There's a moment though that it falls off over here as well too, so we have to be very careful. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come here, right click, I'm gonna hit add node, I'm gonna hit outside node. And then I'm gonna come in here, I'm gonna create this mask that we talked about on this node. And we're going to rotate it. And I'm gonna size it like such. This isn't like a perfect vignette. It's just enough to change our attention, essentially. Let's increase the softness. Cool. And we're actually not going to do anything yet on this node. I want to start with the outside node. Let's use curves. I want to dip our blacks. Not by much. Just like I said, ever so slightly. Okay. In fact, we can come in here. With a little bit more. Yeah, there we go. Now she's still in the shot, but now psychologically our brains will have a little bit more attention to Sean. And I mean, you're already going to have attention to him because we start on his shoes, we go up his pants leg, we go to his guitar. So that works out. Paying attention to my scopes, we're getting the color scheme that we want. We're keeping the reds a little bit higher for the warmth. We have the greens there to keep the warmth from getting out of control and keeping it in the yellows. And we have blues to make sure it doesn't go out of white balance, right? Shot's looking really good. This is a really simple grade. That's why I picked it for this video. Next thing I want to do is I want to take away some of the motion blurring that we did earlier by just adding a little bit of sharpness. And I'm talking little, but like that much right there. You'll notice that we, without making any of like dramatic changes, we're not out of Rec 709 safe anymore, which is good. We might have a couple that pop out. So to ensure that we don't go crazy here, and let's call this sharpen. Call this vignette. Make sure that we don't go too crazy here. I'm going to come up here to my OpenFX library and I'm going to type in gamut for gamut limiter. I'm just going to add that there. For current gamut, we can leave it, but I want to limit the gamut to Rec 709. Create another node here, and let's start our final adjustments. Come up to our OpenFX, and I want to add some grain, film grain. Now, I can tell you I shot on a 35 millimeter. This is pretty close to 35 millimeter on a Super 35. So let's use 35 millimeter 400T. Zoom in all the way here so you can see what's going on. And this is, we'll use the guitar. And this is just going to add that little bit of destruction that you need to your shot to make it look a little bit more natural and what we actually enjoy looking at. We increase the grain strength. And I'm going to do like a very little noise here. This is a 4K shot, so it's not necessary to go to town on the noise and the grain. Do one last node here, and this is our final adjustment node. And let's take a look here. So we started in flat. As you can see, a lot of our colors and our values are in our low mids and our bright blacks, essentially. And then we just stretched those out, but we stayed safe. You know, we're not really too bright. This isn't a daytime shot, so we don't want to be living up here. This is also not like a shot where it's super dark, like a scary thriller scene, a horror movie. So we're not living in the super darks either. So we have a nice balance. We're actually really white balanced. Remember how I said the greens will start to push a little bit, and they do right here. But it's also because the gentleman here is wearing a green jacket, so keep in mind of that. These are very yellow, so the greens and the reds will push. The guitar looks pretty good. And that's how I'll do a quick and simple grade for a live shot outside for, in this case, for Christmas. In the next video, I'm going to do this shot again, but we're going to start pushing it into the style, where we can maybe do a little bit of a snowfall feel, maybe add some haze, and try and add a little bit more depth to this shot. But honestly, for all intents and purposes, this shot is ready to go for the client if they so choose to use it. And so if you like this video, please be sure to let me know in the comments below. If you like what you saw, guys, explore the channel. Feel free to subscribe. Hit that bell icon so you know when new videos go live, and I'll see you in the next video.